Stop. Look, we're stuck in the system, we can't get out. It's time for a change, stop running your mouth. I'm looking for words, but I can't get it out. Look for the light, but the sun blotted out.
Hold on, let me hop on the beat. Cause social injustice and prisoner mindset is something we gotta defeat. We idle these hoes and wear all these clothes with shoes that can't be creased. Steady looking for substance and change, but we searching all up in these streets.
Got a stain on my shirt that I can't get out. My people on high like the top of the mount. We thirsting for truth, but there's no spout. Look for a savior, but no one around.
But no one's around, but where do they look? It ain't in the church, it ain't in the book. We can't get a job, so we rather crook. They got us in chains, a fish on a hook.
Look, harvesting not bodies, harvesting not organs. Got 'em real big mad, cause they culture boring. Pimping the poor, Jim Crow at the door. Selling our souls, our daughters a whore. I wanna give in, can't take it no more. Don't wanna believe our people are more.
We swept our cup when we look at decline. We got a new bottle, it's filled with...
Hello. Welcome back to another Make a Culture Move podcast, where we cover everything from intense topics to funny social trends. We are your hosts, Mark Jonathan,
Tabitha,
G.
And before we let our guests reintroduce themselves, if we could have our brief disclaimer.
So y'all, here at the Make a Culture Move podcast, we cover a lot of intense social topics and a lot of stuff that just do not reflect Malcolm as a whole. So please keep that in mind as we dive into this podcast.
Absolutely. So we have another wonderful segment for you all today. Before we get into that, if you would like to just reintroduce yourself, young activist.
Hey, how y'all doing today? My name is Elijah Judah, also known as Young Activist. And, we ready to talk about some interesting, unique things. And thank you. It's a pleasure always being on Making Our Next Move, Our Best Move podcast.
Oh, man.
Absolutely, bro. We appreciate the love.
Y'all. So I'm not even following that thing because let me tell y'all, if you're not on Clubhouse, highly recommend, especially if you got an iPhone, get on Clubhouse. There's a lot of good stuff on there. There's even stuff about accounting and like how to start your own business. And us as people of color, Black people, we Gadiel in the chat, okay?
Yes,
we need to know more about, business, starting business, making and stuff like that. So today there was a room that I was in called Let's Bash. I'm gonna put it right there. Let's bash Black men. Let's bash men, Black men, and call it accountability and protection. So basically, what they were saying was that they were like in one room they were bashing Black men, saying that there's no accountability and there's a lack of protection that they provide for their community. You know what I'm saying? So I wanted to touch on that and see what y'all's personal opinions were. Like, do you think that there's a lack of accountability for Black men or Hispanic men, even Native American men, when it comes to our community and as to why we're in the situation that we're in?
Shoot, who want to start off, guys?
I could start off anytime.
Sure, we'll let our guests go first.
Y'all can start if y'all want to, but I got you. I would honestly, to be real with you, yeah, Black and Hispanic men are not really accounted for when it comes to how we need to be conducting ourselves within our own community. That's real stuff, bro. Because at the end of the day, we got people out here who call themselves so-called leaders, and a lot of them be out here cheating on their wives. You know what I'm saying? Out here having babies on babies on babies, out here doing things they know are unethical and immoral when it comes to being a stand-up person for these young kids and these young adults looking up to you in the community. And nobody keeps them accountable because we have a thing within our community that we kind of just, if it ain't our business, we ain't got nothing to do with it. So I would for sure say 100% that a lot of these inequities, these iniquities that we allowing a lot of our Black men to do are destroying our communities. And when our Black men are messing up and our brown men are messing up, it's gonna automatically swivel down. It's gonna impact how our sisters act and how our sisters look at us and how our daughters look at us. And so I would for sure say yes, definitely. it affects our communities, and that's the reason why we have certain reactions a lot of our sisters have for us outside of slavery.
Okay. Elijah, huh? Other Elijah?
Can you refresh me on the question? I had some technical difficulties. I had to swap computers real quick.
It's all right. So, just to kind of recap what I said was okay. So I don't know if you're on Clubhouse, but there's like all these different kind of chat rooms where they invite you on the stage and stuff like that. And there was a room where they were talking about somebody. I'm echoing, but there was somebody that was talking about. I'm gonna pull it back up. Let's bash Black men and call it accountability and protection. So basically saying that there's a lack of accountability, and because there's a lack of accountability, like Black men are really not able to protect, protect the sisters basically. Mm-hmm. So I was trying to get y'all's perception as Black men on that,
As like, is there a lack of accountability between us as like brothers, like as hold each other accountable?
Right. Oh yeah. Black women hold y'all accountable, like y'all ain't ish and nigga.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a lot of because Black men have made it a habit of making an excuse for each other. Like when I think about but like certain groups of people who I grew up with, they were always like, well, bro, he had this situation and I had this situation. So no matter what, I'm not gonna leave my brother behind. So I'm gonna stick with him and ride with him. And that's an excuse at the end of the day to be stuck in like this mindset of just accepting poverty, accepting failure, and just overall accepting defeat. So I think that's the one thing is like Black men are constantly in the habit of making excuses for each other. Yeah, we understand the world is hard. Like if you're a Black man and you're born into the world, you understand that it's difficult, but sometimes we take challenges as just excuses for us not to make success. And that is internalized in us when you grow up in neighborhoods and the OG or the big homie always tell you, like, this is what you're supposed to do. You go gang bang, you go be from the hood, and this is all you're going to amount to be. It's like we get this perception of that the bare minimum is all that we can live up to. So we allow so many excuses from getting us to break this glass ceiling that we have. So yeah, that lack of accountability, and it definitely trickles down to how we treat our women. I think that it's more than just how they behave. A lot of the excuses we make is why we leave women in difficult situations with their children, with our children, not their children, with our children. When they just walk out and leave a single mother is because, well, I can't go get a job because I got a felony. I can't do this. Well, these was all decisions you made. You've got to live with it, but it's just a constant habit of making excuses. And yeah, it's definitely tearing our community up.
Smart.
Well, I definitely agree with everything that's been said. I mean, especially on the lack of accountability part, and then it lead into the lack of protection. You feel me? Like we don't really hold our males, even if we just compare it. And I don't really like this comparison, but comparing it to white people, like for the most part, they hold all their men accountable. You feel me? Whether it's maintaining a job that provides for their family, whether it's being loyal to their woman and having a 2-parent household, like we just don't do that type of stuff. And the reason why it leads to that protection value is because, like, if we're not in the position to protect our children, and then 2, the mothers of our children, then we're allowing the mothers of our children to be independent, and that leads to a whole different issue that we talked about in earlier podcasts. But yeah, just to reiterate everything that's been said by our brothers.
So, gee, what do you think, sis? What do you think? Do you think that, I mean, what do you think?
Black men definitely have an issue with holding each other accountable or they have an issue with being held accountable. It's one or the other. If they have fellow Black men in their lives who are holding them accountable, they have an issue with it. They don't know how to take that in and deal with it. Like Mo 3 said in his song, he said my partner wasn't taking care of his kids, and I told him about it, and I made him mad, but I'd be wrong if I never said nothing. You gotta hold each other accountable for every aspect in life, because most of the time from where we come from, the black dads are not in the home. So, the young boys go to the streets or other areas to find love, and this be the homies and the OGs and stuff that they find that security from that they didn't have from a black father. And so it starts there. What accountability are you holding? Is your OG telling you to go to school? Are your homies going to school? Like in the movie Brothers of Love, one of the homies said, I'm only here because that's where y'all is at for the majority of the day. I'm here because y'all here. I don't do my homework. I don't do my classwork. I'm here to socialize with the homies because that's where y'all are at for a majority of the day. So hold your homie accountable to, well, you here, do your work. What did you here for just sitting ugly for? Because it's not sitting pretty to be dumb. Right. So you got to hold each other accountable for every aspect in life. And with black women, we see the lack of accountability when it comes to relationships. Are you holding your bro accountable when you see him dogging his girl? If he got a good girl, and y'all go out or whatever, you feel me? And he get another female's number, that's disrespectful. You holding him accountable to that? Like, come on, bro, you got a good girl at home. Why are you doing that to her? And that's where we see the lack of accountability. That's where we feel not protected at. That's where, we start to have our trust issues. That's why we don't be liking the homies. But then you have those homies who on the low want to get with your girl. So now it's a trust type of thing. Like, dang, you step out on your girl. You got the homie seeing it. And instead of holding you accountable to be a good man, they just going to go ahead and sneak up under you and let your girl know, well, we went out to the club, you feel me? And, shorty pressed up on him, he pressed back up. And now you got your homie and your girl here. We see it happen all the time. So it's like, you as a man, you have to be willing to accept accountability and hold accountability to your next partner. But women too.
Sorry, go ahead.
But women too. We have to hold each other accountable. Which I know that's not this topic here, but you see it all the time. Like, for instance, you feel me? I know some females, you just had a baby and y'all instantly are going out. Why are you gonna let your homegirl go out and y'all just had a baby? Why are you not sis, we just had a baby. Let's wait a little bit because outside gonna be outside. So let's wait a little bit.
So I do want to say something along those lines because the argument that I made in the whole thing, because it's always easy to point the finger at the black man and say it's his fault. And yes, we do need to hold each other accountable because at the end of the day, the black woman's the one laying on her back or have sex with a nigga that she knows is not shit. Excuse my language, but that's what it is. And at the end of the day, the Willie Lynch letter is in full effect. Like, it's in full effect. The mother is raising her son to be effeminate and raising her daughter to be independent. So an effeminate man, he's so emotional. He's an emotional wreck. So when it comes to dealing with the relationship and being like a manly man in the relationship, it's not happening because there's just a lack of like order in the household. There's just a lack of that, And when a man does try to step up and be a man, that's when it kind of goes into what Phil was talking about. 90% is forcibility removed by the mother with "I'ma call the police." Because she doesn't. See,
and with that's when women have to hold women accountable. Women will usually. Okay, a lot of females don't like me because I side with you on. I don't like the baby mom, baby dad spectrum because I feel like it shouldn't be a thing. You're not supposed to have baby moms and baby dads, but we do. And because we do, I come from a baby dad side. I see what happens from that point of view. I see a lot of baby moms, they stick together and ride together because they be on the same bullshit. They be on the same bullshit.
Tough, bro.
I have a question just to shift the focus a little bit. So does this same thing apply with like the whole no snitching policy?
It do.
Or how does that look like as far as accountability goes?
That man, see, Mark, we was on the same page, bro. Right here, we was on the same page.
Yes, sir.
We was on the same.
You
page.
bringing it, man.
Let's talk about it.
You know, that topic for me, man, like that is a very difficult thing for me to talk about because I'll be the first to admit that in some of my immaturity as a young man, like I own up to where I am always in life. Some of my it may be to my immaturity as a young man is that whole no snitching, that whole thing, like I'm still on the whole side of like not really telling. And that's simply just
Facts.
because I can never, and no matter what context, fathom giving my brother to a system. I can't even fathom giving my enemy to the system. So there's just a direct there, unless my enemy is like, you know what I'm saying, not my skin color. I take that back because I saw that smirk. Not if my enemy's not my skin color, and not even then, just I am
I'll tilt him so fast, bro.
I'm just anti the system. Like I'm just fully anti the system. Now I may have flaws in that argument, but that's just my belief. I don't see how there's a benefit currently with the system, how it's constructed. How does it build accountability and actually benefit my community by turning
And
this person to a
rehabilitate.
system? I've never if
that's the
someone
one
can
that
give
they
me a
do.
fair argument of how it actually rehabilitates an offender, no
Mhm.
matter what the crime level is, then I'll accept it. But to this day,
Or an
there's been no
example.
fair level. There's been no rehabilitation. So go ahead. I want to hear your thoughts on that, bro.
For sure, I got you. I'll give you a really big one we've all experienced: molestation, and rape. It's really big in the black community.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? It happens in churches, happens with uncles, it happens with stepdaddies, happens with fathers. Molestation is big, and we don't snitch on that. We don't snitch. We don't go tell the cops. We should tell the cops, bro. They should be locked up and in prison.
Can I ask real quick before you get going? Why is that our only source of accountability? Why
And
are
why
we
not
as a
street
community,
justice?
like
that was
why
an
have we as a community not established our own form of justice that is like I'm just asking that. Like
I got you.
Because I agree with you. That's just something you should snitch on. That's something you should.
I don't care what you say. I want to let this be 100% forward.
Yeah.
The scriptures say Leviticus 5:1, if a soul sin and hear the voice of swearing, you don't want to bear his iniquity, you should tell. Nigga, if a person murders somebody and it's on camera, and you know that shit's on camera, and you're gonna get caught up in that just for not telling, which is a crime, you could end up doing some time for that as well, bro. I'm not necessarily for no snitching. At one point when I was a kid too, and in my immaturity, I for sure was against it too. But understanding the context of what's going on and how this white man controls the system, bro, at the end of the day, you gotta use wisdom on how you're dealing with this situation at hand. Going into how this system could help us, scriptures say that obey those that have rule over you. Right now, when it comes to our people in America today, we don't have any rule in this country. We have no systematic power, no economic power. We have none of that because we are not aware of what's going on. That does not mean we cannot be educated in the future to be able to have certain things like that for ourselves. But as of right now, bro, a lot of these niggas do need to be put up in jail. A lot of these molesters, these murderers, these rapists, a lot of them do need to get put up in jail because guess what? We're talking about improving the hood. We're talking about seeing better for our children. We're talking about getting the gangs off the street, bro. Honestly, at the end of the day, bro, some people do need to learn by being behind bars, bro. Now, does that mean I'm in 100% support for the white man? Hell no, bro. We know that this white man's unjust, but some of these brothers is unjust too, and some of them's worse. So we got to be realistic on what's going on within our own community and really understand how to impact and improve our community. It's not just letting especially deep ass criminals who's destroying and toxifying our communities. A lot of them should not be out here doing things like that.
Okay, so I'm with you on the kids. Like I ain't gonna never argue with no damn kids. Like if you touch a kid, you need that's death penalty. Damn to argue for me because that alters so many things in somebody's life. So I'm not gonna argue on no kids. But just for like other crimes like selling drugs, you know what I mean? That tears down the community. Or acts of violence is a war that's manipulated by greater powers. What about other crimes separate from that? Because I'm not going.
That's what I mean by the white man is terribly unjust, and we understand that. He'll go give you football numbers before marijuana was legal for selling weed. We know that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Does that mean it's absolutely right? Hell no. Nah. Honestly, a lot of those brothers and sisters who's locked up for football numbers for selling weed, in my personal opinion, they should definitely get time reduced. If anything, be out because it's legal now. That's an unjust crime in my personal opinion.
But what's another form? I'm asking, like, I understand, but why for those crimes? what's another form of justice or another form of accountability we can develop without giving them to the system?
Without giving them to the system. Tell the man in the community to be his motherfucking. Hey, some people do.
Hey,
Right.
you know I'm with that. If it comes to that.
Okay,
But
let me
that
ask you
kinda-
a question,
Go ahead.
the brothers. Let me ask you. So recently, there was a law passed for inmates in jail for the males if they got a life sentence before the age of 24. A bill, not a law, a bill. My bad. That was passed. That said, men who were charged with a life sentence before the age of 24 could, get that reduced, or could get out for that, because men's minds are not fully developed until about 25.
Yeah.
So when you think of black men who have committed a crime before the age of 25, and I'm not saying no matter what that crime, because the child stuff is unacceptable. But certain other stuff, you feel, robbery, petty theft, selling drugs. How do y'all feel about that? Because that it kind of shifts the game. It kind of shifts the game of how long our black, like the limit of what our black men could get in jail. Or it shifts something. You know, I'm still trying to figure it out. But I gotta talk to my black men about how they feel. But before y'all go ahead, because I know Tabitha want to say something. But I want to hear how y'all what's up with that.
So before I just roll by and not answer Phil's question on what a manly man is, it's just an alpha male. That's all I meant. I didn't mean to say manly man. I should have said alpha male. And as far as her question, like my friends in high school, I hung out with the D boys. I'm not gonna lie. I love my brothers, regardless of what they were doing. I wasn't doing that. I loved them at the same time. They robbed a store and they sliced a lady's face open. And all of them, like the one dude that had the least amount of taking part of that crime at all, he went to prison the longest because he was the one that was like, I'm not going to snitch. I'm not going to say nothing. And he was the only one that didn't say anything. And because he didn't say anything, they pinned the most time on him. So I think that at the end of the day, I think that all of us should be held accountable for the stuff that we do. I mean, if it was really back in the day, like back in the day, like biblical times, you kill somebody, you're going to die too. So I think that if you murder someone, no matter what age you are, you got to pay that fine.
Yeah.
So that's all I got to say.
I struggle with this notion, hearing this, and like I respect the views, but with all the great understanding between the five of us here of all the systematic oppression, the marginalization, the just complete great disadvantage that young African American boys are susceptible to and endure. And in certain pockets, because I think sometimes when we live in Denver and with just the very small levels of poverty that we have here, I don't think sometimes we imagine some like context and struggle that Black people in other cities are dealing with. So for like a 13-year-old boy in Chicago who just building a scenario whose mom might be strung out on drugs, got 9 or 10 different siblings, no father around, no community leaders, and is involved in the gang war, when he shoots and kills another kid that's involved in the gang war, how can we hold him to a great mass level of accountability when his circumstances, like he is forced to those circumstances and he's at such a great disadvantage? I just struggle with having that argument of we've got to have like this massive level of accountability, or it's just got to be severe, or what the case has got to be, especially when it comes to kids when they're dealing with crazy circumstances.
I want to say that. I want to speak on that, and I'll sorry, Elijah, I'm not trying to cut in front of you.
You're good.
But like, okay, so for instance, we have black men in the community. There's all aspects of Black men in the community. You know what I'm saying? And we need to start. People say pull yourself up by your bootstraps. We don't have any boots to do that, so we got to start pulling each other up. Like literally, it starts with us. The thing that I didn't grow up in Colorado, so I don't. This city is completely new to me, and how like just the way that the hood and everything here is structured is so different. It's so different because the hood doesn't even look like the hood. I grew up in Greenville, Alabama, and I lived in the hood. So that like there's still people living in slave quarters in Alabama. Yes, slavery's over, but the housing, like how the housing is set up, it's still has slave conditions basically. So my friends that committed that crime, all that stuff you're talking about, poverty strickenness and their mothers being strung out on drugs and all that stuff, all of that was a factor. All of that was a factor. My mother was a single mother. She wasn't strung out on crack, but you know, that's a whole nother thing. Because when crack enters the picture, things look different. My dad was a crackhead. That's a whole nother thing. But I would never go out and go to a store and rob it, even though I'm going through it. I wouldn't do that. I would rather just, I don't know.
But you gotta realize and understand that some people's survival instincts is different.
Yeah,
like some people are fight or flight, and there's a lot of dudes who in the hood and their circumstances are fight first. There is no flight because you don't have the option to flight, because if you flight and one of the big homies or somebody above you finds out that you flee from a situation, that's your life. So it's fight. That's all it is fight. It is survival. You have to survive in every circumstance that you're in. And as a young boy, you don't know no better, because you only know what you're being taught. You're only known you're a product of circumstance and situation. So you only know what you're being taught, and what they're being taught is to fight. You have to survive in this life.
Yes.
All right.
If you need to, wait, put that back up, Tab.
We talking about kids, man.
If you have,
and then after Elijah speaks,
talking about kids, you gotta teach kids accountability.
Yeah, like you're not born with
especially if they don't have that stability at first. They don't got no good examples. All they going is toxicity.
That goes back to the parents. So you should train your children up in the way that they should, go. If you're not doing that, then of course toxicity breeds more toxicity. Like it's rare that there's that one child. And I really believe this is like a 1% type of thing in the Black community, where you're in horrible circumstances. Your parents aren't ish, and the people in your community aren't ish, and that's gonna make you not ish, because that's all you see around you. And it doesn't help that the media and basically the media, social media, and all this stuff pushes this narrative that all Black men are going to be our hoodlums and gang members. So at the end of the day, y'all, we really need that accountability in our communities, because if it wasn't for the men in my life holding me accountable and holding the other men around me accountable, then I wouldn't know what a man is supposed to be like. And I don't think any of these younger boys would know what a man's supposed to be like, because that example was never there for them. That path was never, that foundation was never set for them to be something other than just a nigga.
So after Young Activist speaks, if we could get to some of these statements and questions in the comments, that would be lovely. Go ahead, Young Activist.
We could see the comments. I mean, everything pretty much was touched. I was just gonna go into the fact that I think all of us here is either agnostic or Christian. I know for sure Elijah believes in the Bible. Like the scriptures say, everything is destined by the Most High at the end of the day. So even if we are in these positions, it's because the scriptures say that we are designed to be in these positions. You know what I'm saying? So what we got to understand is we cannot justify sin or excuses of just because we are in certain positions. Now, it doesn't mean that it's okay, because I'll be real with you, bro. Somebody comes and smacks me in the face, but I'm smacking them back.
I understand.
I don't give a damn what's going on. Period. Point blank. No, I'm just being real with you.
I know, because I really feel where you're coming from. Like, I know where you're really coming from.
Yeah, like we ain't no punks out here. We're not raising people to be punks, but we're raising people to be accountable.
Yeah.
If you go out and murder somebody, and if you decide to protect yourself, you got to protect yourself, bro. We're trying to teach our young Black men and brown men out here who are trying to understand what self-value really looks like, who they really are, what a man really looks like. You can't teach them to be no punks. You got to still protect yourself. But by any means necessary, if you have the ability to not go out there and be toxic for your community, don't do it, bruh. We have choices to where we don't need to go out and get fast money real fast by selling. Now, does that mean that you are a product to your environment? That might be the only way in which you know, but you can learn a different way. We have options of people who are positive that can give us a better alternative. But because we have bad and negative influences within our community, you're seeing the results of these actions with a lot of these black men out here. This is why it's really, really, really important, because you see 5 young black people right here who are better examples for their community than a lot of this toxic ass stuff we seeing outside right now. So you have positive examples that you can go off of. So that notion that they ain't got nothing out there, bro, that's not always necessarily the case. A lot of the time they find it easier to do something different because it's more justifiable. Remember, it's like a dopamine release in your brain to sin. A lot of us like doing wicked stuff because it's easier than doing things that are better. Let's be real.
Absolutely.
And I always justify that.
And I think, and that's real, bro. Mark, I'll go ahead, Mark. You want to get to some comments, and then I'm sure I can.
Well, really only 2. I feel like we did cover this one specifically. So, and he means answer when he typed the NW. Yeah.
Hell yeah. And that's just. And my thing is, I think that, and I don't always want to try to demonize and say kids don't know nothing, because I think that's sometimes the problem is too. I just think that a lot of the knowledge or a lot of the practices that kids get is just diverted in a really like weird, twisted way. Like my homies is accountable as hell, but they're accountable for the hood in their minds. Like there's like, I'm accountable for protecting this space and banging this hood and banging this block. And I think like a lot of the homies misskew what accountability is. And something that I just want to bring to this conversation that one of y'all brought up about parenting that has just been pressing my mind leading, like when it comes to the toxic behavior, especially of black men, is that we oftentimes, and it was you, Tabitha, talked about how the dynamic is thrown off in the household. A lot of the times the homies grow up with very emotional mothers, from not just only trauma, but just having the natural, just emotionalness that comes with women that usually is beauty, but because the neighborhood makes it look ugly. So
especially if they're independent.
That emotional behavior to the hood. And then they get emotionally attached to their homies in a way that is similar to a relationship. That's why you be seeing these young ladies like, damn, you love the homies more than you love the hood. That's because they internalize that doubtness, that loveness, that relationship where you should learn the love bond from that dynamic with their mothers. And that plagues the community so much with how we have relationships.
And what's funny about that metaphorically is, the hood don't love you back because the hood will get you locked up. The hood will be toxic to you. The hood will get you addicted to crack. The hood will make you a nigga.
The hood will kill you.
The hood will kill you. So at the end of the day, being loyal to the hood is just another way of where you see the stereotypical bitter black woman. You see that with the same nigga. But on top of that, what's even crazier about it, due to this gentrification going on all throughout Colorado, to where we're being dispersed like a metaphorical small local Atlantic slave trade. You see people going to Green Valley to Aurora, like we're getting dispersed everywhere around Colorado. We're seeing a lot of our people still being loyal to the east side right now in Park Hill, bro, when like fucking white families are walking around with their dogs, bro. You ain't like, I feel where you're coming from, but at the end of the day, you got to realize that you got to be realistic with yourself. That's why you can never depend on a neighborhood to be loyal to, because at the end of the day, bro, white man can come in because you really don't own that block and sell that thing in a heartbeat.
Okay, so look, I want to touch on what Tab was saying earlier, and what Elijah was just saying, both Elijahs, about the black people in Colorado. And what I appreciate about both Tab and Mark is that they're not from Colorado, so they know what black people look like in other states. The thing with black people in Colorado, if they've never been outside of Colorado, they don't care to go. And
Facts.
Black people in Colorado are a special breed. They're not like that anywhere else. Anywhere else, they're not like that down south. They're not like that on the East Coast. The Colorado black people are a special breed. And if you only know Colorado black people, you will only ever know black Colorado people. They're a special breed. We're rude. And I say we because I come from that. I was born in that. That's where I'm from. I was born and raised in Denver, Colorado. The East Side. Park Hill, Montbello, Aurora, pushed out to Thornton. From Colorado, Denver, Metro, everywhere I step, Aurora, I'm comfortable. We're rude and disrespectful as hell. Yeah. You can't just walk around and see another black person and smile, because they want to know, what are you smiling for? What are you looking at? What's up? What's up? Whereas you go to the East Coast, you go down south, you see another black person, you smile at them, they smile back at you, you smile at each other. It's like, hey, it's love. It's a different type of love that Colorado black people don't know. They don't know what that's like, and they don't care because they've never been. They think all black people are like Colorado black people, when that's not the case. Colorado black people, Colorado black people, if y'all watching and y'all see this, we different. We're special, and we need to come out of that mindset. It's so toxic in Colorado.
And they quick to hop on trends.
And quick to hop on trends, like you know, you got to go out and see what black people's like somewhere else. I promise you, it's gonna be a culture shock. I got a little cousin that's in the Navy right now, and they're in Virginia, and he was like, you know, it's just something to get used to. He's like, it ain't nothing bad. He was like, it's just everywhere I walk. He said, I live 10 minutes from Howard. Everywhere I walk, everywhere I go, it's black people. It's love. It's, dang, bro, you look good. You look fresh. Like, what's up? Like, it's love. And in Colorado, and y'all know I'm speaking from truth, it's not like that. I don't say that to hate on Colorado, because you do, when you have your people, you get that love from your people, but it's not from everybody.
Oh, I just gotta jump in, because you a Denver person just like I am, and so is Elijah. But our mamas and our daddies ain't like
they didn't go nowhere.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
they didn't go nowhere. So we gotta. My dad was in his 40s before he first ever left, and it kind of changed him. But by then, he's already so effed off. I'm trying to stop cussing, y'all. I'm working on it. So he's already so effed off at that point. You know, he couldn't really. So he left and liked it, but it's still so Colorado. We the box state. Mine so boxed that he couldn't fathom just leaving. Like, you gotta leave. There are 49 other states than the one you are currently in. Get the hell up and go.
That's because they got the white dope
holding you.
They got the white dope.
And the thing is, what black people don't understand is it's high in Colorado. It's cheaper. White people in Colorado always complaining and crying about how expensive the rent is. For how much you're paying for rent, you could go and buy a house down south.
Mm-hmm.
You could go and buy a house down south for how much rent you're paying.
Not to demonize our space we in now.
We're not.
You're about to get back different now, and
I'm not doing that. You just gotta go visit somewhere else and experience, but then bring that back home. Because like, what I want black people to understand is that, so we don't have no HBCU, so we don't have that HBCU culture. That culture is the life surrounding certain cities on the East Coast and West Coast. So it's like, you know, the step shows are normal. Like when I went to Grambling, it was the middle school kids who came and performed for the step show. What's our middle school kids doing? Like our black kids, you feel me? Like they need to be introduced to this culture. They get introduced into the band early, and they're playing specials at the football games at the high schools, starting early. But it's like our youth are not doing that. Our youth are being robbed. And what Colorado experience are we giving our black youth? Are we taking our black youth up to the mountains and teaching them how to ski? Just because we black don't mean we're from Colorado. We should know how to ski. We should know how to do all of that shit.
Hey, G, that's real, because I went to school in Durango for 4 years, and my biggest letdown while I was up there in Fort Lewis is I did not ski or snowboard one time.
And black people from the East Coast and black people who are not from the mountains, they be like, damn, you don't know how to ski? You from Colorado? Like, I would love to learn how to do that. And it made me think, like, damn, why did I never want to push myself to learn how to? Because in my mind, that's white people shit.
Yeah, that's a culture. You know, in other cities too, they do got a culture that they like do a certain type of activity. Like down in the South and like the East Coast, they skate a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't really skate out here. We don't really do nothing. And but I mean, there is an activity that we do that other people don't, which is the worst. We love to marry white women.
like that everywhere.
And you know what else?
They're not like
To speak to that point,
everywhere.
hey, but to speak to your point, oh, sorry, Taz, I don't want to cut you off, but to speak to your point, Elijah, that's real though, because like even the Mexicans, they be cruising feds. And like that is when you go on feds on a Sunday, it is one of the most beautiful experiences if you're there for that reason. Now, if you're just trying to drive down feds, it's the worst experience in the world. But if you just enjoying the experience, they even have their own cultural practice that is repeated. But I mean, the only thing I can think of was like Jazz in the Park we kind of had, but there were still more white people there. And then we saw what happened.
Juneteenth was taken from us.
And then, but that's what's so
due to
sad.
some of our own ignorance.
But that's how much potential we have because Juneteenth is hands down the best day to be black in Denver. Like, at least in my opinion, the best day to be black in Denver is Juneteenth.
No, as a child, growing up, Juneteenth started on Sunday and it ended on Saturday. It was a week long. Juneteenth was a week long. It was the best celebration that black people had in Colorado as a child. And then by middle school, that kind of cut out.
Yeah, then we have Brick City, the E-SNCC. Like, these are other things we have.
Can I say something, y'all? Can I say something?
Go ahead.
Me not being from Colorado, I'm gonna tell you, Juneteenth is just stupid. That's just me. But one thing that I do want to say about the Denver culture that's toxic, and G touched on it also, is that we don't speak to one another. I said hi to a black lady just walking down the street the other day, and I was like, "Hi, ma'am, okay." She just gave me like this look, like, "Okay." I think what it is with Colorado is they're so detached from slavery, like they want to act like it never happened.
That's some
they
real
act like it never existed. In the South, people recognize that, and because they know their history is right where they're at.
It's been pushed out of the curriculum.
Hey. Ignoring it, they say hey to you. You say hey. If you don't say hey to someone, they get offended. They know you.
Hey,
they want to fight if you didn't say hey.
The East Coast breeds Malcolm X's. The South breeds Martin Luther King's. The Colorado breeds Neil deGrasse Tyson's. Like they still smart, you know what I'm saying? They know a bunch of shit that the average black man don't, but you can tell that man a coon. You can tell he married a white woman. You know what I'm saying?
I think that's real, but I think the bigger problem though is we don't see a lot of black people doing well here in Denver. Like you in the South, there's so many more black people doing well. Like when you go down to Atlanta, you see people driving nice cars. You go down to Dallas, you see people driving nice cars, living in nice houses, having the newest watch, the newest thing. Like black people, there's a small population of the black people doing well, and that's like the upper elite. It ain't the dude walking around the neighborhood. I ain't never seen nobody really pull up in the East Side unless he was the dope dealer. And there ain't been too many of them. And I'm just being, you know me, we from the hood too. There's about 5 to 10 of them I can name from about 05 to 15. Really selling big dope like that, pulling up in the hood, showing up for the kids. There's 100 of them down there in Texas. So it's like when you seeing black people doing well and there's a space where you're accepted where black people are doing well, it's good. To speak to your point of gentrification, we see white people come into our neighborhood and start doing good and having stuff in our neighborhood. I saw a Tesla in the East Side. I ain't never saw a Tesla until the hood got gentrified.
Yo,
that's just
a bunch of them too, bro.
And a bunch of them. So that's what I'm saying. You see black people doing well. That will affect how you go interact with black people too, because you go feel like you got to fight them for the resources that's here. And I think that mentality, we don't think
that's real around. Here. I kind of bring this back to what Tabitha the original question Tabitha put up. What was it from?
No, are you in school?
Let's bash black men, call it accountability and protection.
Let's bash black men, call it accountability and protection.
You do me a favor?
Just because your mic is
just because your camera off. Don't I just don't see the beauty in bashing black men. Like, like as a black woman, it's like we don't like it being done to us. So what's the beauty in doing it to the black men? Like you can't do that. Like I don't see the beauty in bashing black men and getting positive vibes out of that. How do you get positive vibes out of bashing the black man? Now, to speak to a point of, to state the things that we see that we don't like, to call those things out, that's one thing. But to just bash the black man, that's the issue already. That's the problem already. is that black women bash black men. You bash black men all the time, so that's what steers them away. Why does a man want to come home to a woman that's constantly bashing him? How is a man going to feel comfortable? Exactly. How comfortable is he going to feel in a space, in an area where he's always being bashed? You can't bash. You gotta be able to have just a conversation. Have a conversation with them. So it's like, I don't like doing it because I don't like it being done to us. And I go from 0 to 100 quick. Y'all know me. So I don't want to have to be put in that position where, because now if you bashing me, I'm gonna come for you back, but I'm not just gonna be comfortably sitting in a space where we're just gonna bash men.
But I feel like though the thing is though, we talk about like not bashing a black man, but we talk about how independent we are and how much we need black men, but we claim to be independent. If you're so damn independent, why do you need a man in general? I think we need to let go of that independent mindset. We've talked about it here. We've talked about like submitting to the black man. Me personally, like, you know, y'all know, especially G and Mark, y'all know my thought process when it comes to, and Elijah, you might know, but my thought process to submitting, like that's the thing that our households lack, is the need to that will to submit. We have too much willpower, too much independence to submit to a man. We've had that talk of, we got to find a man worth submitting to, all that stuff. And that's like, then why are you having sex with somebody who you could potentially get pregnant by if he's not worth submitting to, if he's not worth being around, if he's not worth dealing with, but you're still opening your legs? Like, I think that's the toxicity within the sisterhood amongst black women. We need to keep our legs closed, because we know that we can have babies. Black men, you know, you can only have babies if a woman's willing to open her legs. But it goes back to what Kevin Samuel said. I love his podcast, y'all. If you watch, you guys should really watch his YouTube podcast. He holds black women accountable, but he said because black women will not stop having sex, that black men need to stop having sex with black women if they're not willing to do X, Y, and Z.
I wanted to just double and say that part of the reason why I think black women bashing black men is because there's not like many spaces for them to like vent frustration in a positive outlet.
See,
go ahead, G. Go ahead, G. You want to jump in?
Okay, see, and that's real, and that's where I think where sisters have to hold sisters accountable. You can't, as women, we know how women are. Okay, I was just, talking to my cousin. We was talking about some things. I was trying to explain to him. Women are complicated. We just are. We're emotional, and sometimes that emotion is hard to. Can you get that?
Exactly.
That emotion is hard to communicate. But it's like with sisters, we know this already. So when you see in your circle of space, I have I don't vent to all my sister friends the same way. Right. And I just don't know how to. I don't vent to all of them the same way because I know that they're all going to give me different things. So I vent to them in a way that I know they can give me what they know how to give me. Everybody ain't like me. So with women, you have to, and if you see your sister's going through something, tell her, let it out, vent. Because she's not going to if you don't tell her it's okay to. You give each other that space. Quit being so selfish and stubborn and bitter in the fact that you don't want to deal with anybody else's drama because you're already dealing with your own. We know how to do that. We know. Sorry. Exactly. I have a friend who told me out of the 24 hours in the day, I'm gonna give you 5 minutes to bitch and complain about your problem. I'm gonna give you 5 minutes. Give me 5 minutes about what it is that you're not handling. 5 minutes. You got it out? You good? Now let's grow from that, because with women, we talk about stuff and then dwell.
Exactly.
Dudes
There's no
talk about stuff and get over it. Males talk about stuff and they get over it. Females talk about stuff and they dwell in it because something else clicked in their head and it's like, well, hold up. We do a lot of what ifs. After what if, what's real? Look at what is real in front of you. And sisters, we have to hold each other accountable to that. Okay, so that's what you saying, a whole lot of what ifs. And we allow each other to what if our lives away. But challenge each other to focus on what's real. What is really in front of you? Focus on this chessboard. What is in front of you? What can you see? What is realistic? You can't make up unrealistic plays if it don't correspond with what is already going on. And we as females, we allow each other to what if our lives away, and that's toxic in the female sisterhood. Look at what's real.
But G, that's on us too at the same time, because niggas got to stop selling dreams. And that's where I was going to turn this on to us back again, is that, like, I am just a firm believer, back to what Tabitha said, like, men are supposed to be the leaders in the community.
Absolutely.
Like, so a lot of the confusion that y'all are feeling is when a man is supposed to interject in and say, you know what, I'm going to get this for you. Just as y'all interject and do a billion different things for us. Like, I think a lot of the problem with when it comes to the sisterhood of the Black women is that a lot of the decisions y'all are forced to make is not supposed to be your decision. It's not supposed to be on the weight of your shoulders. Go ahead, Mark.
No, I agree 100%. But I think another big piece of that is if the father isn't there to put our females on game, then the only way they're gonna learn is from people that don't have their best interest at heart.
Yeah, like single mothers.
So it's gonna be that nigga that only wants to see her down bad, that's gonna teaching her the game and like molding her into what he want to see from her. But if we got them fathers in place to be that initial game that be given off to the women, I feel like that would help them see some of that deceit and some of that, lie that these men. But I'm not excusing what you're saying, because we definitely need to, stop selling.
I think that's real, Mark, because I have my brother. You feel me? Like I'm blessed and overly grateful that I have my big brother put me on game. My big brother put me on game, and he put me on game intentionally. There was things that he intentionally told me to be careful for, look out for, things to do, not to do. And then there was things just witness. I'm an observer, I'm an eyewitness, and I seen, so I peaked game on my own just from having the older brother that I had. But I'm also grateful for the game that I learned from my dad, because although my dad wasn't shit,
right,
I learned from that. Everything that I watched my dad do, I looked and said, and I said at an early age, I'll be damned. I'll be damned if I ever let it do me the way I watched my dad do my mom. You know. So I learned from my dad. I'ma do y'all. I watched my dad. I'd rather do you first before you do me. And
so
yet
you started
I was
to notice the red flags.
I noticed early. I noticed early. So it's like, in me, as I am, with my female friends in my circle, I try to put them on that game. It's hard when you deal with females who come from all female families. It's hard when you're dealing. Hold on. That's all
I want to know, and that's the question I want to know. I mean, the answer I need. That's what I need to know.
Because the good niggas are boring.
We're taking advice from people that don't know anything about healthy relationships. We're taking advice from our single mothers who don't have a healthy relationship.
I don't know how to be in a relationship. I don't know how to be in a relationship.
Someone who's never been in a healthy relationship.
I don't know how to choose my man. I don't know how to choose my man.
Hold on, but this is the shit that kills me. Hold on about that. But that argument don't be valid for young boys. That's the shit that kills me.
I think it is, though. I think it is, though.
A lot of the time, that argument is explained. A lot of the time,
explain. Okay, so like Kevin Gates says in his song, my mama used to sell pussy and don't wonder why I love whores. That shit is real.
That is real.
That shit is real.
That is
so the young man is watching his mama come up and have different men coming in and out of the home, or you feel me, whatever she's doing, and he's watching that come up. That's the type of woman he's gonna be attracted to. You feel me? So it has to apply in both areas. The type of role models you see coming up is
Respect.
eventually like what Phil say, but y'all know.
Not me, Phil, just to say that I don't do that because it goes into what Gadiel said. The Bible is my foundation on how to be in a relationship. So I know the blueprint. Before I lay down or open my legs to anybody, I'm gonna sit there and really get to know you and comb you to make sure I know everything that I need to know before really deciding to enter into a relationship with you. All these situationships are what's breeding toxic kids in our communities and toxic relationships. Men typically want what their mother is that example for them. That's the woman that they strive for when it comes to a relationship. So if your mother is, like I said before, you're taking advice from a woman that's never been in a relationship. So you're looking at your mom like, okay, I see her with this dude, this dude, this dude, this dude. So I know that she's okay with being with multiple men. So I'm gonna be in and out of a woman's life because that's what I've been. That's the foundation that I have. That's the foundation that I grew up with. That's the example that's set for me. Your mother, like, I can personally speak on my mom's example. My mom talked to us about everything. And my mom was a prostitute. So I could just throw that out there. And so my sister's like, it was just like, sex, you can make money by sex, you could get a man by sex. All you have to do is have sex with the man, and you don't really have to give him too much else other than sex. Everything else will come after. Like the sex was always like a foundation for being in a relationship. And so being with multiple men was really nothing because you've seen your mom be with multiple men. So I think that in order for us to have healthy relationships, we seriously got to have better examples and stop looking at these single women in our families around us as examples of what it is to be in a relationship, going by hood proverbs, saying that a nigga ain't shit. X, Y.
Okay, but can I ask you a question then? Can I ask, and this is to the group.
We need real life.
Like, I really feel everything, and that's true. But to bring back something that young activist said earlier is that there are these positive role models. There's us on the screen. There's the people that are behind us that taught us and got us here. Where can we develop these channels, these pathways where the masses get to see more positive role models? Because I always hear that, like, oh, there's more role models. There are positive role models, but they sure the hell ain't getting out there in numbers. Apparently, if there's the case that this is still the stigma that's placed on our society. So
we're not really doing a diligent search either to find the good role models either. We're looking.
How you gonna do a diligent search when you're 12? You're not worried about
I can answer
nothing.
that. I can answer that.
Go ahead.
So when you're 9, 10, 11, 12, yeah, you're 100% right. First of all, a lot of our people don't read because their parents don't really sit down and read with them, first and foremost. So a lot of them's not going to go and do that research. But you got to also realize a lot of our positive role models aren't as entertaining as, Patrick Mahomes or Steph Curry. You know what I'm saying? Or Drake or NBA Youngboy. Because those are who they looking up to right now, if you want to be realistic. A lot of them's looking up to them type of people because they're on the screen every day with LeBron James on the court or in the street or in the rap studio doing something like that. So a lot of our young men coming up either want to be athletes, they either want to be in the street, or they either want to be a rapper or something like that. A lot of them do. Not all of them, but a lot of them want to be somewhere in that field. But
so what I'm hearing is it's the light-skinned men that
No, I was just using him as an example. Black man. We can use NBA Youngboy. NBA Youngboy ain't light-skinned.
I'm just playing.
He's coffee bean.
Hey,
yeah, right.
Hey,
who is Patrick Mahomes?
Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback.
Kansas City quarterback.
Yeah, I only know him because
he got embarrassed last night.
He did. Hey, but thank you, Tom, for my bread.
I'm for Brady.
But yeah, you got them examples out there that our kids all know. Like they know who LeBron James is, but I guarantee they don't know who Fred Hampton is. They don't know what Jesus really looks like.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They don't know anything about what the scriptures really saying about them, how most of the prophets is black, but then your mama whips you to go to church every Sunday. So we raising our children in lies on a day-to-day basis, on ignorance, and then we expect them to do good in society. When you're going to church every single Sunday to realize that somebody who you worship in, who you're supposed to look up to, don't even look like you. You know, you got to really understand that role models and real models is a real thing. So until we understand to push our children away from ignorance, until we understand to tell our children the truth as opposed to lies, you're going to always see niggas on the block. I guarantee you. Because the thing is, we have to be able to teach our children what true representation looks like. And it starts in your belief system. Because all of your morals, your ethics, the way you walk, the way you talk starts in your belief system. It starts within your church, to be real with you. And a lot of these pastors is con men who are teaching you motivational speeches for 2 hours on a Sunday, maybe 1 or 2 scriptures, and then they pass around the basket. And then, you know what I'm saying, you won't really learn anything from that. You know, I could be real with you, bro. I went to church pretty much, I think 16 or 17 years of my life before I became an Israelite, like 16 or 17 years of my life. And I don't really remember any sermons I was learned. I'm gonna be real with you, I don't. Because the thing is, a lot of the times these churches ain't teaching you nothing that's memorable that can help out your community. Why is it that when we go into these churches, bro, we don't really talk about what's going on right outside our doors? A lot of these people, a lot of these children are going on to the block, you know, right after church. But these pastors ain't really talking about that.
Church doors are supposed to be unlocked for people to come in at all hours. Why are homeless people turned away from church?
Bro, remember that hurricane in Houston when Joel
Osteen would not open up his church.
That man's
would not open up his church. Yeah.
I'm not saying because you gotta understand.
All people are welcome in the building of a church because the church is the people, but in the building that hosts it, all people are supposed to be welcome. So how do you turn somebody away?
That's still the problem. Okay, so but that's still the problem though. But what I'm saying is how? Okay, so where do we close this gap? Because this is the thing: is we're 5 very intellectual individuals that like have a very unique kind of brain that kind of. There's not much of us on this screen like there are in the population. Let's just be honest. We know our homies, we know our brothers, we know our sisters. They're not the same level of intellect most of the time that we are. Even the ones that were in better circumstances just don't choose it. Like, how do we find positive role models that still give that entertainment value? Because when I hear you say LeBron James, Steph Curry, I personally am a big fan of LeBron James. I think he does great work at the community. I'm actually kind of fond of Steph Curry. I think he's a pretty cool dude too. But it's the value of entertainment, and I think that's what makes like cinema, arts, sports so powerful. Is because it's one of the few spaces where we do have a gang of fucking representation. There is a ton of representation in sports and a ton of representation in the music and entertainment industry. It's just not always a positive representation. So how do we find that blend of saying like, yes, you can become the movie star, the star athlete, and get means to give back to your community, while also highlighting you can also be this cool ass doctor, or you can also be this cool ass businessman. Because it's hard for me to deter a little kid from wanting to be more like LeBron James and Fred Hampton. There's only a few niggas out here that can be like Fred Hampton. There's also only a few that can be like LeBron James. More likely,
you gotta know the strength. I think that's with parents. You have to learn your children's strengths, you know, like for example, with my baby brother, Dude could cook.
Yeah.
Dude could cook. He just turned 12 last week, and Dude could cook.
Mm-hmm.
And he pretends like he wants to play basketball. He says he wants to play basketball. You feel me? But he don't. And it's obvious because it's in his actions and what he does. Mm-hmm. He don't want to, you feel me, exercise. He's not pushing himself to, you know, get into a gym and play. But Dude could cook. I mean, he makes his own sauces. He could cook. So we pushing him and instilling him, be a chef. You don't have to play basketball. That's if that's not your dream, because it's not, right. All of us had that dream because it was my dad's dream, and he let that dream fail because he chose the streets over the NBA. You feel me? My dad chose the streets over the NBA. So we all right. You feel me? But we wanted to fulfill his dream because that's what he was pushing in us. When that's not the power. Recognize your kid's strength.
Yeah.
So we push him. You want to be a chef? We push him in the kitchen. My mom and my baby brother had a cook-off for Thanksgiving because he swears he could cook better than my mom. You can't cook better than my mom, baby.
Boy. He said them is old black hands that got love, and we ain't got that love in them fingertips yet.
And that's what it is. So we gotta, I don't know. We have to, I mean, we're the generation to change it.
Mm-hmm. So I know we run on time. So yeah, I do just want to say one more thing. I'm sorry, but we also need to recognize that there's more than those two ways to make money, like playing professional sports, and drug dealing. There's plenty of other ways to make legit and solid money. But yeah, I'll let that be the last point. But
I
Oh,
really want to make people get high to be a pharmaceutical engineer.
We offer legal ways to make money here at Malcolm. Hit
Yeah,
us up.
absolutely.
become an
Jonathan?
actual chemist and stop,
Yeah.
Become
Go
an
to school for
actual
botany.
chemist.
For real, there's hella
Period. Go to
careers
school
that
and study
average
botany.
Work
100K.
your ass at Walgreens. You make the same amount. Maybe a little less.
Yeah, I was
Go work
about
at
to say.
Walgreens.
But to Lorenzo's point too, I did want to cover this. I feel like we are being those role models, or at least in the process of, you feel me? I think if we get more people on the platform that, especially that look like a lot of these kids out here, come from the same backgrounds, I definitely feel like we could definitely. I know G. Just
I'm
leave.
terrified. Look,
Okay.
I'm terrified of being somebody's role model. I'm terrified of
That's
somebody
real.
telling me I look up to you, like, oh, because then it's like at that point I am monitoring everything I'm doing, and it's like, don't tell me that because it's like, oh, what am I doing wrong?
I feel
I'm
that.
terrified. I'm terrified of being somebody's role model.
So
But I get the point.
with all this though, we're gonna conclude because we got a 2:00 meeting, and Phil said that he's waiting on us. So I don't want,
Okay. So yes, I want to say thank you to all of our viewers for participating in this day's podcast.
Participate.
Yes, indeed. Our topic was the lack, or I'm sorry, could you pull it up for me?
Yes, I
forgot
can.
that quick. So let's
bash. I don't know if I
Okay,
said that.
let's bash black
bash.
men and call it accountability and protection. So our podcast was focusing on the accountability and do we hold that in the black community. I want to say thank you to our guest again for our part 2. We have Young Activist and Elijah Huff. They each represent their own organizations. Elijah Huff got the East first. Young Activist with the Young Activist. Again, follow us on all of our social platforms. We got Malcolm Make a Chess Move, Malcolm Make a Culture Move, Virtual Artist Storytelling, Pushing Pawns. Follow us on Instagram at Malcolm3, Pinterest at Malcolm303. Follow our YouTube at Malcolm Make a Chess Move, Malcolm303. And make sure to tune into our Virtual Artist Storytelling. We got it from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We're right back with it this week. What you got to say, Young Activist?
This had nothing to do with the topic of last week in the diaspora with the African oppression going on. But all right, y'all.
Absolutely.
No, that is crazy. Well, maybe we'll get back to that. Let's try to get back.
I changed the topic because last week was just too intense for me. So that's what happened.
All right. But thank you again to our guests. Thank you to our viewers. Be sure to tune in with us Friday. And y'all Malcolm out there.
Y'all Malcolm out there.
Malcolm, y'all.